In suburban Ohio, a struggling young woman was about to face her parents' harshest ultimatum. What started as a late-night walk home from the coffee shop took a shocking turn when she came face to face with her own breaking point. Sofia Marie Anderson wasn't your typical barista. For 3 years, she had poured her life into secret screenplays. Known for her vivid imagination, when she encountered a stray cat crossing her path, she never imagined she was stepping toward Disney's call and her family's reckoning. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The alarm buzzed at 5:47 a.m., 3 minutes before Sofia Marie Anderson had set it to ring. She'd been awake for 20 minutes, staring at the water stain on her childhood bedroom ceiling that looked like a butterfly with one broken wing. At 30 years old, she was still living in the room where she'd once dreamed of becoming anything but ordinary. Sophia reached under her pillow and pulled out the folded screenplay pages she'd worked on until past midnight. Page 47 of Caminos Cruzados, her deeply personal animated screenplay about a young woman caught between family expectations and artistic dreams. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was living the story she was writing. She read the dialogue silently. But what if I'm not meant to be what everyone expects me to be? Mija, we don't get to choose what we're meant for. We choose what we're willing to sacrifice for. Sophia folded her pages and slipped them into her desk drawer beneath old biology textbooks. The same textbooks that served as her parents' daily reminder of the practical education they'd sacrificed to provide. She saved her work to 3 cloud drives, then cleared her browser history. 3 years of secret writing had made her cautious. The storyboard sketches covering her wall came down next, carefully rolled and tucked behind the dresser. Character designs for Anna, the protagonist who looked like Sophia herself, dark hair, determined eyes, caught between two worlds. Visual notes about Mexican-American family dynamics, color palettes representing cultural identity, and animated sequences that existed only in her imagination. By 6:15, Sophia the screenwriter had disappeared, leaving only Sophia the dutiful daughter with an unused biology degree. "Mija, you're up early," her mother's voice carried upstairs in Spanish, followed by coffee brewing and eggs hitting the pan. Dr. Isabella Cruz Anderson was already dressed in scrubs, preparing breakfast with surgical precision. Her mother had been working double shifts lately, though Sophia suspected it was less about patient needs and more about avoiding conversations about her daughter's future. "I have to open the coffee shop today," Sophia explained, accepting the plate her mother placed before her. "Gardman's daughter has a dentist appointment." Isabella's jaw tightened. "Gardman, the one who keeps telling you to chase your writing contests? She encourages everyone to pursue their dreams. It's not specific to me. Dreams don't pay medical bills or rent." Isabella's tone was matter-of-fact. "I had dreams too, Sophia. I dreamed of research, of discoveries that would help thousands, but life required practical choices." Jonathan Michael Anderson entered, already dressed for his engineering job. Sophia's father had always been the family mediator, the gentle voice smoothing over her mother's intensity. "Good morning, sweetheart," he kissed Sophia's forehead. "Any promising job leads this week?" The question was kind, but settled on Sophia's chest like a familiar weight. "I have 2 interviews next week," which is true. "I also have a notebook full of story ideas and a half-finished screenplay that felt more important than any job application." Isabella nodded approvingly. "That pharmaceutical company downtown is expanding their research division." "I'll look into it," Sophia promised, though the words tasted like chalk. Jonathan squeezed her shoulder. "You'll find your path, Sophia. Sometimes it just takes time to see where you're meant to be." At Grind Coffee on Main Street, Sophia found her sanctuary. The small cafe felt more like home than her bedroom. Carmen Rodriguez was already behind the counter, humming along to Spanish guitar music as she prepared morning pastries. "You didn't have to come in so early," Sophia said, tying on her apron. Carmen smiled, silver threading through her black hair. "Old habit. Besides, I wanted to talk to you about something." She pulled a folded newspaper from under the register. There's an article about Disney Animation Studios. They're launching a diversity initiative for emerging screenwriters. Applications are due next month. Sophia's heart jumped. That's interesting. Interesting? Carmen raised an eyebrow. Sophia, you've been writing for 3 years. Your stories are beautiful, authentic. They deserve to be seen.
Your parents love you, Carmen interrupted gently. But they're not the ones who have to live your life. You're 30 years old, mija. What are you reading for? The morning rush prevented Sofia from answering, but Carmen's words echoed as she made lattes and took orders. Between customers, she read the article on her phone, pulse quickening as she scrolled through application requirements. They wanted authentic voices, stories that hadn't been told, cultural perspectives reflecting America's changing face. She had that story. She'd been living it for 30 years and writing it for 3. During lunch break, Sofia sat in her car and stared at the Disney Animation Studios website. The application portal was professional, intimidating, official. Everything her secret dream had never been. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Remember to pick up applications from the medical center. Dr. Martinez left them at the front desk. Sofia closed the Disney website and started her car. But Carmen's words played on repeat. What are you waiting for? That evening, alone with her biology textbooks standing guard and her parents asleep, Sofia opened her laptop and navigated back to the Disney portal. Her screenplay was finished, polished through dozens of revisions, professionally formatted, accompanied by a treatment capturing her story's emotional heart. Her cursor hovered over the submit button. 3 years of hiding, 3 years of living a double life, 3 years of wondering if her voice mattered, if her story was worth telling, if she was brave enough to find out. The house was silent except for settling wood and her father's gentle snoring. In the morning, she'd wake up and hide her pages again, play the dutiful daughter, smile through conversations about practical careers and responsible choices. But tonight, for just a moment, she let herself imagine a different kind of morning, one where she woke up as Sofia, the screenwriter, instead of Sofia, the disappointment. Her finger moved toward the submit button, trembling with the weight of possibility and fear. Sofia's finger hovered over the submit button for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. The cursor blinked mockingly, waiting for a decision that felt impossibly huge. Finally, she closed the laptop without submitting and slipped the device under her pillow. Tomorrow, she told herself, when her courage felt steadier than her fear. But morning brought disaster in the form of forgotten screenplay pages. Sofia had been rushing to get ready for work when her phone rang, Carmen calling to say she'd be late opening the shop. In her hurry to respond and gather her things, Sofia left 3 printed pages of dialogue on her desk right next to her biology textbooks, where anyone could see them. She didn't realize her mistake until she was halfway through her shift at Grind Coffee, when a cold dread settled in her stomach like spoiled milk. The pages contained some of her most personal writing, a scene where Anna confronts her mother about sacrificing dreams for security, words that could have been ripped directly from Sofia's own thoughts. By the time Sofia got home at 4 p.m., it was too late. Isabella was waiting in the kitchen, the 3 pages spread on the table like evidence at a trial. Her surgical scrubs had been replaced by jeans and a sweater, which meant she'd left work early. That never happened unless someone was dying or someone was in serious trouble. Sit down, Sofia. Her mother's voice was dangerously quiet. Sofia remained standing, her keys still clutched in her hand. Mom, I can explain. 3 years. Isabella picked up the top page and read aloud. But you don't understand, Mama. Your sacrifices become my prison if I can't choose my own path. 3 years you've been lying to us, to me. The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Sofia felt her carefully constructed worlds colliding, the impact devastating and unavoidable. It's not lying if what? If you hide it well enough? Isabella's voice cracked with hurt more than anger. Do you think I'm stupid, Sofia?
Do you think I haven't noticed the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way you light up when you talk to Carmen about anything except your job search? Jonathan appeared in the doorway, still in his work clothes, his face heavy with an expression Sophia couldn't read. What's going on? Isabella gestured to the pages. Your daughter has been writing movie scripts instead of looking for real work. For 3 years. Sophia finally found her voice. They're called screenplays, and yes, I've been writing. But I have been looking for jobs too. I've had interviews, I've sent applications, while wasting your education on fantasy stories. Isabella stood, pacing to the window and back. While we worry about your future, about how you'll support yourself when we're gone, you're playing pretend. It's not pretend! The words exploded out of Sophia before she could stop them. It's my work. It's what I'm good at. It's what matters to me. The kitchen fell silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Sophia had never raised her voice to her mother before, never defended her dreams out loud. The admission hung between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. Jonathan cleared his throat. Sophia, the stories you write, they're beautiful. Both women turned to stare at him. Isabella's face went pale. What did you say? I've been reading them, Jonathan admitted quietly. The pages you leave in your printer sometimes, the files on the computer when you forget to log out. He looked directly at Sophia. You have real talent, sweetheart. Real insight into people and relationships and the complexity of family. Sophia felt tears building behind her eyes. Her father, quiet, diplomatic Jonathan, had been her secret supporter all along. Isabella's voice was barely above a whisper. You knew about this? You knew she was lying to us and you said nothing? She wasn't lying, Isabella. She was protecting herself and maybe protecting you from feeling like you'd failed somehow. Failed? Isabella's composure cracked entirely. I've worked double shifts to keep this family afloat. I've sacrificed my own research, my own dreams, to give you opportunities I never had. And you think I've failed? That's not what I meant, Jonathan started. No, that's exactly what you meant. Isabella turned back to Sophia. And you, do you think my sacrifices mean nothing? That the life your father and I built for you is something to be ashamed of? Sophia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Mom, your sacrifices mean everything to me, but they can't be the only thing that matters. I can't live my life just to justify yours. The words cut through the kitchen like a blade. Isabella recoiled as if she'd been slapped. I've been good at biology because you needed me to be, Sophia continued, her voice shaking but stronger now. I've applied for jobs I don't want because you were scared I'd struggle like you did. But I'm not you, Mom. My path doesn't have to look like yours to be valid. Isabella picked up the screenplay pages, her hands trembling. These stories, they're about us, aren't they? About how terrible it is to have parents who care about your security more than your happiness? They're about the complexity of love, Sophia said softly. About how people can hurt each other while trying to help. About how tradition and change don't have to be enemies. Isabella crumpled the pages in her fist. I don't want to hear any more of this. You have 1 month, Sophia. 1 month to find a real job that uses your education, or you'll need to find somewhere else to live. I won't watch you waste your life on impossible dreams. She stormed toward the stairs, then stopped and turned back. And Jonathan, we'll be talking about your role in this deception later. The sound of her footsteps on the stairs echoed like gunshots. Sophia and her father stood in the wreckage of their family dinner, surrounded by the scattered pieces of 3 years of secrets.
Jonathan reached for Sophia's hand. I'm sorry, I should have spoken up sooner. Sophia squeezed his fingers, feeling the calluses from years of engineering work, the same hands that had apparently been turning pages of her stories in secret. 1 month, she whispered. 1 month, he agreed. What are you going to do? Sophia looked at her laptop bag, thinking of the Disney application, still waiting for her courage. I honestly don't know. The silence in the kitchen stretched until Jonathan finally released Sophia's hand and moved to pick up the crumpled screenplay pages from the floor. He smoothed them carefully against the counter, as if trying to undo the damage Isabella's grip had caused. She'll come around,
he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sophia stared at the pages, her words about family and sacrifice now wrinkled and torn. Will she? Because it feels like I just lost my mother and gained an enemy. Upstairs, a door slammed, then another. The sound of Isabella moving through her nightly routine echoed down like distant thunder, each footstep deliberate and sharp. She's scared, Sophia. Your mother, she sees herself in you more than you realize. When she looks at your dreams, she sees her own research career, the one she gave up. She's trying to save you from the regret she carries. By forcing me to carry it instead? Jonathan had no answer for that. The next morning brought a formal coldness that settled over the Anderson house like frost. Isabella left for work an hour earlier than usual, avoiding the kitchen entirely. She'd prepared Sophia's breakfast and left it covered on the counter with a note. Job fair at the convention center today, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sophia stared at the note, written in her mother's precise surgical handwriting. No good morning, no love, Mom, just instructions. As if Sophia were now a task to be managed rather than a daughter to be loved. When Daniel called that afternoon, Sophia was sitting in her car outside a medical supply company where she'd just endured a 40-minute interview for a position she hoped she wouldn't get. Mom told me what happened, her brother said without preamble. Are you okay? Define okay, Sophia replied, watching people exit the building in professional clothes, carrying briefcases and purpose she couldn't imagine possessing. She's really upset, Sophia. But so are you, I'm guessing. Daniel had always been the family diplomat, able to see multiple sides of every conflict. As a business student, he understood both practical necessities and the importance of following your passion. But even his measured voice couldn't bridge the chasm that had opened between Sophia and her mother. She wants me to give up who I am, Sophia said. She wants you to survive, Daniel countered. In her mind, those are the same thing. That evening, Sophia made a decision that surprised even her. She packed a bag with essentials, clothes, laptop, and her precious notebook of story ideas and loaded them into her car. She left a note on her pillow. Staying with Jess for a while. Need space to think. We'll call soon. Jess Martinez lived in a converted warehouse apartment downtown, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. She'd been Sophia's roommate in college and her closest friend ever since. When Sophia knocked on her door at 8 p.m. with a suitcase, Jess took one look at her face and stepped aside. Wine or tequila? Jess asked. Coffee, Sophia said. I need to stay clear-headed. They sat on Jess's mismatched couch while Sophia explained the last 24 hours. Jess, who worked in social media marketing and had built her own successful consulting business from scratch, listened without judgment. So your mom gave you a month, Sophia finished. 1 month to find a real job or find somewhere else to live. And you came here. Sophia nodded. If that's okay, just until I figure things out. Jess was quiet for a moment, studying her friend's face. Can I ask you something? What do you actually want, Sophia? Not what your mom wants, not what you think you should want. What do you want?
The question hung in the air like incense. Sophia had spent so many years considering everyone else's desires that her own felt foreign, uncertain. I want to submit my screenplay to Disney, she said quietly. I want to find out if I'm good enough, if my stories matter to anyone besides Carmen and, apparently, my dad. Then submit it. It's not that simple. It literally is that simple. You have the application ready. You have the story finished. Submit it. Sophia pulled her laptop from her bag and opened the Disney portal she'd bookmarked. The deadline was 3 weeks away. The application stared back at her, patient and waiting. What if I don't get it? What if you do? That night on Jess's fold-out couch, Sophia stared at the ceiling and thought about possibilities. Outside the window, the city hummed with people pursuing their own versions of success and... Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Failure.
Somewhere in Los Angeles, Disney executives were reading submissions from writers who'd been brave enough to believe in their stories. The next morning brought a text from her father. "Your mother wants to talk. Can you come by the house after 6? Please?" Sophia showed the message to Jess over coffee. "You ready for round 2?" Jess asked. "I don't think anyone's ever ready for round 2 with my mother." When Sophia arrived at the house that evening, she found Isabella waiting in the living room with a manila folder. Her mother looked smaller somehow, as if the argument had physically diminished her. But her posture remained rigid, her expression carefully controlled. "Sit," Isabella said. Sophia remained standing. Some battles required equal footing. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about my sacrifices becoming your prison." Isabella opened the folder and pulled out a stack of job listings, all highlighted in yellow. "These are positions that would use your degree. Good companies, decent pay, room for advancement." "Mom, I'm not finished." Isabella's voice cut through Sophia's protest. "You want to write? Write in your spare time. After work. On weekends. But you need security first. You need a foundation." Sophia looked at the job listings: laboratory technician, research assistant, quality control specialist. Respectable positions that would slowly drain her soul while providing excellent health insurance. What if I said no? Isabella's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the fear underneath. "Then you'll need to support yourself entirely. No help with rent, no family financial safety net. You'll be completely on your own." The ultimatum was clear: choose security or choose independence. There was no middle ground in Isabella's world. Sophia took the job listings, feeling their weight like stones in her hands. "I understand," she said. "Good." Isabella stood, smoothing her clothes. "You have 3 weeks to decide." 3 weeks. The same deadline as the Disney application. As Sophia drove back to Jess's apartment, she realized her mother had unknowingly created a perfect symmetry. 3 weeks to choose between the life Isabella wanted for her and the life Sophia wanted for herself. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of dramatic timing. 2 weeks into her self-imposed exile at Jess's apartment, Sophia had collected 17 rejection letters and 1 soul-crushing near miss that left her sitting in her car outside Pharmatech Industries, crying into her steering wheel. "We were very impressed with your qualifications, but we've decided to go with a candidate who has more recent laboratory experience." Recent laboratory experience. The polite way of saying that her 3 years of coffee shop work had made her radioactive to potential employers. She was overqualified for entry-level positions and underexperienced for anything that paid a living wage.
Not the choice I made. My children needed me, and I don't regret raising them. I regret that I made the choice out of fear instead of love. I regret that I never found out how far my talent could have taken me. Sophia felt tears building again. What if I'm not good enough? What if the Disney thing is just another rejection waiting to happen? What if it isn't? That evening, Sophia sat on Jess's couch with her laptop open and her screenplay file glowing on the screen. Caminos Cruzados. All 127 pages of her heart laid bare. The story of Anna, caught between worlds, finding her voice despite everyone who tried to silence it. She read her favorite scene again, the one where Anna finally tells her mother that love shouldn't require the erasure of dreams. The words still felt true, still felt necessary. Sophia opened a new browser window and navigated to the Disney portal. The application deadline was in 5 days. She had nothing left to lose except the last shred of her dignity, and that was already hanging by threads. Her phone rang. Jess's name appeared on the screen. "Hey," Sophia answered. "Hey, listen, I've been thinking about your situation." Sophia's heart sank. Here it comes, the gentle eviction notice disguised as concern. "I know this is hard," Jess continued, "but I think you should submit your screenplay before you make any other decisions, just so you know, either way."
Sophia looked at her laptop screen, at the submit button that had been haunting her for weeks. What if I don't get it? Then you'll know, and you can move forward without wondering what if. But Sophia, what if you do get it? After they hung up, Sophia sat in the quiet apartment, surrounded by the detritus of her temporary life. Her suitcase in the corner, her writing notebook on the coffee table, her dreams scattered like puzzle pieces across the floor. She placed her cursor over the submit button. This time, she didn't hesitate. This time, she clicked. Sophia had been back at Grind Coffee for 3 days, picking up extra shifts to stretch her dwindling savings and distract herself from the gnawing anxiety that followed her everywhere since submitting her screenplay. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart would stutter with hope and dread in equal measure. But it was always Daniel checking in or Jess sending encouragement, or her father with carefully neutral updates about Isabella's mood. Never Disney. Tuesday morning arrived gray and drizzling, matching Sophia's internal weather. She'd spent another sleepless night on Jess's couch staring at the ceiling and calculating how long she could survive on her remaining $623. The medical device quality interview was scheduled for Friday, her last realistic shot at meeting Isabella's deadline. Carmen was training Marcus on the register when Sophia arrived, the familiar chaos of morning rush preparation providing a temporary reprieve from her spiraling thoughts. She tied on her apron and fell into the rhythm of grinding beans and steaming milk, letting muscle memory carry her through the motions. "You're here early," Carmen observed, watching Sophia prep the espresso machine with mechanical precision. "Couldn't sleep," Sophia replied, which had become her standard response to everything lately. The morning customers trickled in, the usual mix of commuters grabbing coffee to go and remote workers claiming tables for the day. Sophia moved through the familiar choreography of coffee service, finding comfort in the predictable routine: order, brew, serve, repeat. No rejection letters in coffee service, no disappointed mothers or impossible choices. At 10:47 a.m., while Sophia was wiping down tables during a brief lull, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, expecting to see Jess's name or maybe another unknown number offering her an extended car warranty. Instead, she saw Disney Animation Studios, Burbank, California. Sophia's hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped from her grip. "Carmen?" she called out, her voice strange and thin. Can I take this outside?" Carmen looked up from the pastry case, took one look at Sophia's face, and nodded immediately. "Go. Take your time." Sophia stumbled toward the back exit, her thumb hovering over the answer button. This was it. The rejection call. They probably called everyone personally to let them down easy. Professional courtesy. She answered on the fourth ring. "Hello, this is Sofia Anderson." "Miss Anderson, this is David Park from Disney Animation Studios."
I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Sophia leaned against the brick wall behind the coffee shop, grateful for something solid to support her suddenly unsteady legs. "No, this is fine. How can I help you?" "I'm calling about your screenplay submission to our Emerging Voices program, Caminos Cruzados. I have to say, Ms. Anderson, your script really stood out among the submissions we've received." Sophia's brain struggled to process the words. Stood out. Past tense, as if decisions had already been made. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" David's laugh was warm, understanding. "I know this can be overwhelming. Let me be direct. We'd like to discuss optioning your screenplay for development. Your story has exactly the kind of authentic cultural perspective and emotional depth we've been looking for." The world tilted sideways. Sophia slid down the brick wall until she was sitting on the concrete, phone pressed to her ear like a lifeline. "Option," she repeated stupidly. "That's right. We're prepared to offer you a standard option agreement, which would give us the rights to develop your screenplay for a specified period. There would be compensation involved, naturally, and if we decide to move forward with production, additional payments at various stages." Sophia tried to speak, but no sound came out. In the distance, she could hear Carmen's voice through the coffee shop's back door, the normal sounds of business continuing while her entire life rearranged itself around this phone call. "Miss Anderson, are you still there?" "Yes, I'm here. This is very unexpected.
I imagine it is. Can you tell me a bit about your background? Have you worked with studios before? Sophia almost laughed at the absurdity. No, I work at a coffee shop. This is my first screenplay. I mean, my first submission to anything like this. Even better, David said, and Sophia could hear the smile in his voice. Sometimes the best stories come from writers who haven't learned to second-guess their instincts yet. Your script has an honesty that's rare. The way you handle the mother-daughter relationship, the cultural tensions, it feels lived in, personal. It is personal, Sophia admitted. That comes through. Look, I'd love to set up a call to discuss this further. Would you be available for a longer conversation tomorrow? I can walk you through what the option process involves, answer any questions you might have. Sophia fumbled for her phone's calendar, though she knew her schedule was embarrassingly empty. Yes, tomorrow works. What time? They arranged a call for 2 p.m. Pacific time, which David patiently translated to Eastern for her. He gave her his direct number and email address, speaking slowly while Sophia wrote everything down on a napkin she'd grabbed from her apron pocket. One more thing, Miss Anderson, David said before they hung up. You should know we received over 4,000 submissions for this program. We're only optioning 12 scripts. Your story earned its place. After the call ended, Sophia sat on the concrete behind the coffee shop for 10 minutes, staring at the napkin with David Park's information scrawled in her handwriting. 4,000 submissions. 12 chosen. Her story, her personal, messy, complicated story about family and dreams and cultural identity had somehow risen to the top. The back door opened, and Carmen appeared, concern creasing her features. Mija, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Disney, Sophia whispered. Disney wants to option my screenplay. Carmen's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, recognition, then pure joy. She let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a cry, pulling Sophia up from the ground and into a fierce hug. I knew it, Carmen said, tears streaming down her cheeks. I knew your stories were special. Oh, Mija, I'm so proud of you. Standing in the alley behind the coffee shop where she'd spent 3 years serving other people's dreams, Sophia finally allowed herself to believe it might be real. Disney Animation Studios wanted her story. They were prepared to pay her for it. For the first time in months, she had something other than fear driving her decisions. She had hope. The rest of Tuesday passed in a blur of surreal normalcy. Sophia returned to work after her life-changing phone call, making lattes and serving pastries as if nothing had fundamentally shifted. But everything had. Every familiar task felt strange, performed by someone who might soon be calling herself a professional screenwriter instead of a barista with a biology degree. Carmen kept catching her eye throughout the day, grinning conspiratorially whenever customers weren't looking. During the afternoon lull, she cornered Sophia near the espresso machine. Have you told anyone else yet? Carmen whispered. Sophia shook her head. I'm still processing it myself. What if it falls through? What if they change their minds? Mija, they called you. Out of thousands of people, they called you. That doesn't happen by accident. But processing success felt harder than processing failure. Rejection had been familiar territory. Sophia knew how to carry disappointment, how to absorb setbacks, and keep moving. This strange new landscape of possibility felt foreign and dangerous, like walking through a house in the dark. That evening, she sat cross-legged on Jess's couch with her laptop open, researching everything she could find about David Park. His IMDb page showed producer credits on 3 animated features she'd actually seen and loved. His Disney bio mentioned his background as a screenwriter before transitioning to development, his focus on stories that explored cultural identity and family relationships. He was real. This was real. Jess emerged from her bedroom in pajamas, carrying a bowl of cereal for dinner. You've been staring at that screen for 2 hours. What's going on? Sophia turned the laptop so Jess could see David's profile. Disney called today. They want to option my screenplay. Jess nearly dropped her cereal. What? Sophia, that's incredible.
Why didn't you tell me immediately? Because it doesn't feel real yet, and because, Sophia paused, struggling to articulate the complex emotions churning in her chest. Because my mom doesn't know. My family has no idea that everything just changed. Jess set down her bowl and moved to sit beside Sophia on the couch. Are you going to tell them? I don't know. The deadline she gave me is still hanging over everything. What if I tell them about Disney and it somehow falls apart? Then I'm just the daughter who got everyone's hopes up before crashing back to Earth. Or, Jess said gently, what if you don't tell them and miss the chance to share something amazing with the people you love? The next afternoon, Sophia positioned herself at her makeshift desk in Jess's living room for her video call with David Park. She changed clothes 3 times, settling on a simple blue blouse that looked professional without trying too hard. Her notebook sat open beside her laptop, filled with questions she'd spent the morning researching. David appeared on screen exactly at 2 p.m., calling from what looked like a bright, modern office with movie posters covering the walls behind him. He was younger than Sophia had expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and an easy smile that immediately put her at ease. Sophia, thanks for making time for this conversation. How are you feeling about everything? Overwhelmed. In a good way, I think, but still overwhelmed. David laughed. That's completely normal. Let me walk you through what we're proposing, and please stop me with questions anytime. For the next hour, David explained the option process in terms Sophia could understand.
Disney would pay her an upfront fee for the exclusive right to develop her screenplay for 18 months. During that time, they'd work with her on revisions, potentially bringing in other writers for additional drafts. If they decided to move forward with production, there would be additional payments at various milestones. The upfront option fee is $75,000, David said, as casually as if he were discussing the weather. Sophia's pen froze mid-note. I'm sorry? How much? $75,000. It's standard for our Emerging Voices program. And if we exercise the option and move to production, the purchase price would be $400,000 against a percentage of the film's profits. Sophia stared at her notebook where she'd written $75K in handwriting that looked foreign to her own eyes. More money than she'd made in the last 2 years combined. Enough to pay rent somewhere, to stop sleeping on Jess's couch, to have space to breathe and write and figure out what came next. Sophia, you still with me? Yes, sorry, it's just, I work at a coffee shop. This is more money than I've ever seen. Well, if everything goes according to plan, you might not be working at that coffee shop much longer. Part of what we'd want from you during development is availability for meetings, revisions, research. It becomes a job. A job. Writing as an actual job, not a secret passion hidden behind biology textbooks. After the call ended, Sophia sat motionless for several minutes, staring at the notes she'd taken. David had sent her electronic copies of the option agreement to review, along with the recommendation that she hire an entertainment lawyer to represent her interests. An entertainment lawyer? She needed an entertainment lawyer now. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Coffee later? Mom's been asking about you again. Sophia stared at the message, thinking about everything she couldn't tell him. Not yet. Not until the contracts were signed and the money was real and she could present this as fact rather than possibility. But the weight of the secret pressed against her chest like a stone. She was about to sign a contract with Disney Animation Studios, and she couldn't share that news with her own brother. She typed back, "Can't today. Rain check?" That evening, Jess found Sophia on the couch, surrounded by printed contracts and legal documents she was trying to decode. How did the call go? Jess asked. They offered me $75,000, Sophia said, the number still feeling impossible in her mouth. Jess sat down heavily on the coffee table, facing Sophia directly. Holy shit! And if they make the movie, $400,000. Holy shit. They sat in silence for a moment, the magnitude of the opportunity settling between them like a third presence in the room. You know what this means, right? Jess finally said. Sophia looked up from the legal documents.
That I need to learn what in perpetuity throughout the universe actually means? That you were right about everything. Your story, your talent, your instincts. You were right to keep writing when everyone told you to stop. The validation felt almost as overwhelming as the money. For 3 years, Sofia had questioned her own judgment, wondered if her dreams were delusion. But Disney Animation Studios, the company that had created some of her favorite films, thought her story was worth telling. Now she just had to figure out how to tell her family that their biggest disappointment had become their most unlikely success. The Last Draft, Part 7, Industry Navigation. 3 days after signing the option agreement with an entertainment lawyer who cost $500 an hour, Sofia found herself on a plane to Los Angeles for the first time in her life. The Disney contract had become real the moment $75,000 appeared in her checking account, more money than she ever possessed, transforming her from broke coffee shop worker to professional screenwriter in the span of an electronic transfer. David had arranged for her to spend 2 days at the studio, meeting with the development team and discussing the adaptation process. Sofia pressed her face to the airplane window as Los Angeles sprawled beneath her, endless and sun-bleached, nothing like the modest horizons of Ohio. The Disney Animation Studios campus in Burbank looked like a small city designed by someone with an unlimited imagination and budget. Sofia followed David through buildings filled with concept art and storyboards, past animators hunched over drawing tablets, through screening rooms where teams debated color palettes for films years away from release. "This is where your story could come to life," David said as they walked through a hallway lined with character designs. "We're thinking of setting it in the present day, but incorporating visual elements that represent Anna's internal journey between cultures. Animation lets us make the abstract concrete." Sofia nodded, trying to appear professional, while internally marveling at the casual way David discussed turning her personal struggles into visual metaphors. They entered a conference room where 4 other executives waited, each with printed copies of her screenplay marked with colorful sticky notes. "Sofia, meet the team. These are the people who will help bring Caminos Cruzados to the screen."
The next 2 hours passed in a blur of creative discussion that felt like discovering a new language. They talked about character arcs and 3-act structure, about visual storytelling and cultural authenticity. They asked Sofia questions about her own family dynamic, about the specific tensions she'd experienced growing up between 2 worlds. "The mother character," said Maria Santos, the story supervisor, "she's complex in ways we don't often see in family films. Usually the parent is either purely supportive or clearly antagonistic. Anna's mother, she's both simultaneously." Sofia found herself defending her fictional mother the same way she'd spent years defending her real one. She's not wrong to want security for her daughter. Her fears come from real experience, real sacrifice. She's trying to protect Anna from her own potential regrets. "Exactly," Maria nodded approvingly. "That's what makes this story sing. There's no villain, just people who love each other and can't figure out how to show it in ways the other person can receive." After the meetings, David took Sofia to lunch at a restaurant where everyone seemed to be discussing deals and projects. She felt like an anthropologist studying the customs of an unfamiliar tribe, one where networking happened over quinoa salads and success was measured in box office projections. "How are you processing all this?" David asked over coffee. "It's surreal," Sofia admitted. 6 months ago, I was hiding my writing from my parents. Now you're talking about hiring consultants to ensure cultural accuracy in the adaptation. And how do your parents feel about all this?" Sofia looked out at the palm trees lining the restaurant's patio, so different from the bare oaks of her Ohio childhood. "They don't know yet." David's eyebrows rose. "They don't know you sold a screenplay to Disney?" "It's complicated. My mother gave me an ultimatum about finding a real job. The deadline is next week, and I haven't figured out how to tell her that my fake dreams became real income." "Sofia," David said gently, "you're about to become a professional screenwriter. You'll need to be available for revisions, meetings, research trips. This is your real job now." That evening, in her hotel room overlooking the Hollywood Hills, Sofia called Jess to check in. How's La La Land? Jess asked. Overwhelming, amazing, terrifying. Sophia settled into the hotel's plush armchair, city lights twinkling below. They want me to move here if the project gets greenlit for production. Move to LA? Sophia, that's huge. I know, which makes me feel terrible about the fact that I still haven't told my family what's happening. When do you plan to tell them? When I get back, I think. I can't keep living this double life. It's eating me alive. After they hung up, Sophia tried to work on the revision notes David had given her, but her concentration kept drifting. She was 2,400 miles from home, sitting in a hotel room that cost more per night than she used to make in a week, working on a project that could transform her entire life. Yet the person she most wanted to share this with was the same person whose deadline still hung over her head like a sword. Her phone rang at 11 p.m. Ohio time, 8 p.m. in Los Angeles. Sophia? It was Daniel, his voice tight with concern. Where are you? What do you mean? Mom went by the coffee shop looking for you today. Carmen said you were out of town on personal business, but you never mentioned traveling anywhere? Mom's freaking out, thinking something's wrong. Sophia closed her eyes, imagining Isabella's controlled panic at discovering her daughter had mysteriously vanished. I'm fine. I'm in Los Angeles. Los Angeles? What the hell are you doing in Los Angeles? The question hung in the air, demanding an answer that would change everything. Sophia could lie, deflect, buy herself a few more days of secrecy, or she could trust her brother with the truth that was getting harder to carry alone. I'm meeting with Disney Animation Studios, she said quietly.
About a screenplay I wrote. The silence stretched so long, Sophia wondered if the call had dropped. Daniel? Disney Animation Studios? His voice was hollow with disbelief. Like actual Disney? They optioned my screenplay, the one about family and cultural identity that I've been working on for 3 years. Another long pause. Sophia, this is incredible. Wait, does Mom know? No one knows except Jess and Carmen. And now you. Oh, God. Mom's ultimatum is next week, and you're out here selling movies to Disney? Daniel's voice shifted from amazement to alarm. Sophia, you have to tell them. Tonight. I will, when I get back tomorrow. No, tonight. She's been pacing the house for 2 days, imagining worst-case scenarios. Dad's worried sick, too, even though he won't admit it. Sophia looked out at the alien landscape of Los Angeles, so far from the familiar rhythms of home. What if I tell them and somehow it ruins everything? What if admitting success out loud makes it disappear? What if you don't tell them and they find out some other way? What if Mom calls the police because she thinks something happened to you? Sophia knew Daniel was right. The secret had grown too large to carry, and keeping it was hurting people she loved. But the thought of calling home with news that would fundamentally alter her family's perception of her and her future felt like stepping off a cliff. I'll call them in an hour, she promised. Sophia, I'm proud of you. Really proud. And I can't wait to see Mom's face when she realizes her biggest worry just became her biggest bragging point. After they hung up, Sophia sat in the hotel room's artificial quiet, preparing to make the call that would finally unite her two worlds. Outside, Los Angeles hummed with the dreams of thousands of writers and artists, all chasing the same impossible possibility that had somehow chosen her. When I get back, I think, I can't keep living this double life. It's eating me alive. After they hung up, Sophia tried to work on the revision notes David had given her, but her concentration kept drifting. She was 2,400 miles from home, sitting in a hotel room that cost more per night than she used to make in a week, working on a project that could transform her entire life. Yet the person she most wanted to share this with was the same person whose deadline still hung over her head like a sword. Her phone rang at 11 p.m. Ohio time, 8 p.m. in Los Angeles. Sophia? It was Daniel, his voice tight with concern. Where are you? What do you mean? Mom went by the coffee shop looking for you today. Carmen said you were out of town on personal business, but you never mentioned traveling anywhere. Mom's freaking out, thinking something's wrong.
Sofia closed her eyes, imagining Isabella's controlled panic at discovering her daughter had mysteriously vanished. I'm fine. I'm in Los Angeles. Los Angeles? What the hell are you doing in Los Angeles? The question hung in the air, demanding an answer that would change everything. She could lie, deflect, buy herself a few more days of secrecy, or she could trust her brother with the truth that was getting harder to carry alone. I'm meeting with Disney Animation Studios about a screenplay I wrote. The silence stretched so long Sofia wondered if the call had dropped. Daniel?
Disney Animation Studios? His voice was hollow with disbelief. Like, actual Disney? They optioned my screenplay, the one about family and cultural identity that I'd been working on for 3 years. Another long pause. Sofia, this is incredible. Wait, does Mom know? No one knows except Jess and Carmen. And now you. Oh, God. Mom's ultimatum is next week, and you're out here selling movies to Disney. Daniel's voice shifted from amazement to alarm. Sofia, you have to tell them. Tonight. I will. When I get back tomorrow. No, tonight. She's been pacing the house for 2 days, imagining worst-case scenarios. Dad's worried sick, too, even though he won't admit it. Sofia looked out at the alien landscape of Los Angeles, so far from the familiar rhythms of home. What if I tell them and somehow it ruins everything? What if admitting success out loud makes it disappear? What if you don't tell them and they find out some other way? What if Mom calls the police because she thinks something happened to you? Sofia knew Daniel was right. The secret had grown too large to carry, and keeping it was hurting people she loved. But the thought of calling home with news that would fundamentally alter her family's perception of her and her future felt like stepping off a cliff. I'll call them in an hour, she promised. Sofia, I'm proud of you. Really proud. And I can't wait to see Mom's face when she realizes her biggest worry just became her biggest bragging point. After Daniel hung up, Sofia sat in the hotel room's artificial quiet, preparing to make the call that would finally unite her two worlds. Outside, Los Angeles hummed with the dreams of thousands of writers and artists, all chasing the same impossible possibility that had somehow chosen her. She dialed home, ready to discover whether success could heal the wounds that secrets had created. Sofia's finger hovered over her mother's contact information for several minutes before she realized she was repeating the same paralysis that had plagued her with the Disney submission. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd found the courage to send her screenplay to one of the world's largest studios, but calling her own mother felt insurmountable. She dialed the house number instead of Isabella's cell phone, hoping her father might answer first. Sofia! Jonathan's voice carried immediate relief mixed with concern. Thank God! Your mother has been beside herself. Where are you? I'm in Los Angeles, Dad. I'm fine. Is Mom there? Los Angeles? Honey, what's going on? Isabella, Sofia's on the phone. Sofia heard the familiar sounds of her childhood home, her mother's quick footsteps across the hardwood floors, the creak of the kitchen chair as someone sat down, the background hum of the television in the living room. Normal sounds from a life that was about to become decidedly abnormal. Sofia Marie Anderson, where have you been? Isabella's voice cut through the phone with surgical precision. Carmen said you left town on business, but what business could you possibly have that requires traveling across the country without telling your family? Mom, I need to tell you something. Both of you. Can you put me on speaker? A pause, then the hollow echo that meant she was now addressing both parents simultaneously. I'm listening, Isabella said, her voice clipped with the controlled tone she used when expecting bad news. Sofia took a breath that felt like preparation for diving into deep water. 3 weeks ago, I submitted my screenplay to Disney Animation Studios. Yesterday, I signed a contract with them. They're optioning my script for development. The silence that followed stretched so long, Sofia checked her phone to make sure the call hadn't dropped.
Sofia, Jonathan's voice finally broke the quiet. Did you just say Disney? Disney Animation Studios. The screenplay I've been working on for 3 years, the one you've been reading, Dad, they want to turn it into an animated movie. This is a joke. Isabella's voice was flat, disbelieving. This is some elaborate story to avoid admitting you've wasted the last month instead of looking for real work. It's not a joke, Mom. I'm in Burbank right now. I just spent 2 days in meetings at their studios.
They paid me $75,000 for the option rights. Another silence, shorter this time, but heavier. $75,000? Jonathan repeated slowly, as if testing the words for truth. And if they decide to make the movie, $400,000 more. Sofia heard a sound like a chair being pushed back abruptly, followed by footsteps. Isabella? Jonathan's voice became distant, not directed at the phone. Where are you going? I need air, came her mother's muffled response, followed by the slam of what sounded like the back door. Dad? I'm here, sweetheart. Jesus, Sofia. Disney Animation Studios. I know it sounds impossible. No, it sounds like validation, like proof that your talent was real all along. Jonathan's voice cracked slightly. I'm so proud of you. But Sofia, your timing. This is a lot for your mother to process. I should have told you sooner. I wanted to, but I was scared it would fall through, and then I'd just be the daughter who got everyone's hopes up before failing again. You were never failing, Jonathan said firmly. You were becoming. There's a difference. Through the phone, Sofia heard the back door open again, her mother's footsteps returning to the kitchen. She wants to talk to you. Isabella's voice returned to the speaker, but it sounded different now. Smaller, more uncertain. Sofia, if this is real, if you're really... Why didn't you tell us? The question carried years of hurt condensed into a single inquiry. Sofia pressed her forehead against the hotel window, watching Los Angeles twinkle below while her family processed the seismic shift she'd just dropped into their lives. Because I was tired of disappointing you. And because I was afraid that if I said it out loud, it might not be true anymore. Disappointing me? Isabella's voice rose. Sofia, if this is real, if Disney actually wants your story, then you were never disappointing me. I was trying to protect you from the kind of heartbreak I thought was inevitable. I know, Mom, but your protection felt like suffocation. I couldn't breathe inside the life you wanted for me. The life I wanted for you was safe, predictable, secure. I watched my own dreams disappear into practical necessity, and I couldn't bear the thought of watching yours break your heart. But they didn't break my heart, Sofia said gently. They saved it. She heard her mother crying, soft sounds that Isabella would normally never let anyone witness. Jonathan's voice murmured something comforting in the background.
When do you come home? Isabella asked, finally. Tomorrow afternoon. My flight lands at 4. We'll pick you up, Jonathan said immediately. Both of us, Isabella added, her voice steadier now. Sofia, I don't understand this world you've entered. I don't understand how dreams become contracts or how stories become movies. But I understand that my daughter is talented in ways I was too frightened to acknowledge. Sofia felt tears sliding down her cheeks, the Los Angeles skyline blurring into streaks of light. Does this mean the ultimatum is off? A pause, then something that might have been Isabella's laugh. I think it's safe to say your job search has concluded successfully. After they hung up, Sofia sat in the hotel room's artificial quiet, processing the conversation that had just reorganized her family's entire dynamic. The secret that had been eating her alive for weeks was finally exposed. And instead of the explosion she'd feared, there had been confusion, hurt, recognition, and something that felt remarkably like forgiveness. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Dad just called. Holy shit, Sofia, Disney. Mom's walking around the house saying, my daughter works for Disney, to no one in particular. I think she's in shock. Sofia smiled, imagining her pragmatic mother trying to reconcile her fears about artistic careers with the reality of her daughter's success. It would take time for Isabella to fully process this shift, but for the first time in months, Sofia felt like she was moving toward her family instead of away from them. Tomorrow she would return to Ohio not as the disappointing daughter who refused to find a real job, but as the professional screenwriter who had turned family dysfunction into Disney magic. The irony was almost too perfect to be real. But then again, 3 weeks ago, so was everything else that had happened since.
I mean, I've been researching pediatric cardiology programs, part-time residency tracks for experienced physicians who want to return to specialized practice. If my daughter can reinvent her career at 30, maybe her mother can do the same at 54. Sophia felt her throat tighten with emotion. Mom, that's incredible. It's terrifying, Isabella corrected. But watching you take risks, real, calculated risks that paid off, made me realize I've been hiding behind practical choices that weren't really practical anymore. They were just safe. Daniel leaned forward from the back seat. Does this mean family dinners are going to be even more intense? A Disney screenwriter, a cardiac researcher, and an engineer walk into a kitchen. Everyone laughed, but the humor felt warm instead of defensive. There was space for all of them now. Space for dreams alongside security, ambition alongside stability. 3 weeks later, back in Ohio, Sophia established a new routine that felt sustainable rather than secretive. Her writing desk was no longer hidden in her childhood bedroom, but set up in the sunroom, where natural light streamed through windows and family life hummed around her productivity. Isabella would often sit nearby in the evenings, reading medical journals while Sophia worked on script revisions. They developed an easy rhythm of parallel focus, occasionally sharing thoughts or asking opinions without the tension that had once characterized every interaction. "How's Anna's mother coming along in the latest draft?" Isabella asked one evening, looking up from an article about minimally invasive surgical techniques. "She's becoming more sympathetic," Sophia replied. "The studio wanted her to be more clearly villainous, but I keep pushing back. She needs to be someone the audience understands, even when they disagree with her choices." "Like real mothers," Isabella said with a slight smile. Exactly like real mothers. Jonathan had started reading Sophia's drafts aloud during their evening walks, testing dialogue and rhythm in ways that helped her hear the script's natural flow. His engineering mind approached story structure with the same methodical precision he brought to building designs, offering insights about narrative architecture that consistently surprised her. "The third act feels emotionally sound," he'd said, after reviewing her latest revision, "but the pacing needs adjustment. You're rushing toward resolution instead of letting the characters earn their growth." These collaborations felt like gifts Sophia hadn't known she wanted. Her family's involvement in her work wasn't the intrusion she'd once feared, but a form of support that honored both their relationships and her professional independence. Carmen threw a party at Grind Coffee when Caminos Cruzados was officially greenlit for production. The entire cafe was packed with friends, neighbors, and regular customers who had watched Sophia serve coffee while secretly nurturing impossible dreams. "I always knew you were meant for something bigger than this place," Carmen announced, raising her coffee mug in a toast. "But I also want you to know, no matter how famous you become, you'll always have a job here if you need one." The room erupted in laughter and applause. Sophia looked around at the faces surrounding her, people who had supported her journey without fully understanding where it was leading, who had offered encouragement when encouragement felt impossible to accept. Later, as the party wound down, Sophia found herself behind the familiar counter one more time, helping Carmen clean up. The routine felt comfortable rather than confining, a reminder of where she'd come from, rather than evidence of where she'd been stuck. "Any regrets?" Carmen asked, as they wiped down tables. Sophia considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, she'd been hiding her dreams from everyone she loved, living in perpetual fear of disappointment and discovery. Now she was a professional screenwriter with a Disney contract and a family that finally understood how to support her ambitions. But the journey to this point had been painful in ways she was still processing. The months of deception, the ultimatum that nearly destroyed her relationship with her mother, the fear and uncertainty that had colored every decision. "I regret how long it took me to trust the people I love," Sophia said finally. "I spent so much energy protecting myself from their disappointment
that I never gave them the chance to surprise me with their support. Carmen nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes we have to learn how to receive love before we can recognize all the ways it's already being offered. That night, Sofia sat in her sunroom office working on a new project. Not a Disney assignment, but a story she wanted to tell about second chances and family healing. Outside the windows, her parents' house settled into familiar nighttime sounds, and for the first time in years, Sofia felt completely at home in her own life. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Excited to see what you write next. The industry is paying attention now." Sofia smiled and typed back, "Working on something new. I think you'll like it. It's about what happens after the dream comes true." She saved her work, closed her laptop, and headed upstairs to the bedroom that had once felt like a prison, but now simply felt like home. Tomorrow would bring new pages, new challenges, new opportunities to transform personal truth into universal story. But tonight, she was exactly where she belonged. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.